What stands out about Texas Tech?
Oh shoot, really good basketball team. Obviously one that can and will possibly finish towards the top. They've got a good inside-outside balance. They really shoot the three well, well coached, played a little slower tempo, that kind of deal. But you know, they change defenses based upon what they feel that scheme is best maybe for them in that particular game, and they do the same offensively. They really exploit mismatches offensively.
That's usually a pretty hostile environment. Is there anything you guys are doing to prepare for that?
No, I mean, shoot, we've been to BYU. I mean, we've been to hostile environments before, so we'll be fine. I mean, you know, when it gets really, really loud, we use our board to call plays and those sorts of things. But, I mean, you're going to face that in most of the Big 12 away environments, so, no.
I know you've, over your career, been to a variety of different places. Are you kind of at least enjoying the element of seeing these new, environments like a place like Tech?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're playing in great venues in front of, you know, fans that are passionate about their university and their program, so that's always fun. It's a lot more fun when you win, obviously, but yeah, no. I mean, I think that our league has great resources and venues and home court environments, and I think that each time that you go to those places, you learn a little bit more about, hey, this is cool, they do this, we should bring it to GIA as well. So you're always learning. Yep.
How beneficial, I guess, was film study from the previous game? Obviously, weren't stoked about the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't wrong. Our defense wasn't good. I thought we did a good job offensively, sharing the basketball. I thought we did a good job getting the actions that we were trying to get out of our offense, that we were trying to generate from our sets or from, you know, whatever we were doing. But at the end of the day, we allowed them to score, I want to say 16 points in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the first half, and then you gave up 49 in the second half, and that's way too much. But we did a good job that first 15 minutes, I thought, defensively, you know. But that second half, I don't know if we thought we could outscore them or what we were thinking, but that's not going to happen in this league.
How have the players responded to that?
Well, we've been off. Yeah, we're mandated that we had to take off Wednesday and today, because you have to take off a day a week. But if because of your travel schedule you want to take 2 days off back to back, or just 2 days off period in the same week, it allows you to skip a week of a day off. And because of our schedule, we had to do that.
Yeah, because y'all playing on Sunday versus Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, normally Sunday's our day off, if at all possible. So it just worked out that way. We'll have to do this, I want to say 3 weeks down the line as well.
You mentioned post-game you called more sets in that last game. Is that something you see yourself continuing to do, or do you want to get back to the free-flowing
stuff? Yeah, I mean, if I have to control the game so that we get the shots that we want and it helps us alleviate some of those bad shots or those ill-advised shots that we take, then I want to do it. That's not what I want to do. I want to play in transition. I want to play motion offense more, but when guys are taking ill-advised or bad shots, and then that turns into offense for the other team, it makes no sense for me not to control the game.
Is there something you're looking for to see other than just shot selection that would let you know that the guys are maybe ready to take more ownership, especially early in the game?
Yeah, I think it's gradual. I think some days or some moments during the game they do it more than others, right? I think that we have several guys that are wired to score, and they think that their benefit for our team is scoring. Well, you have to be able to play defense. You have to be able to share the basketball, take care of the basketball, and you don't just catch it and try to go score every single time you touch it. And to me, that's where we get ourselves in trouble, because you're especially trying to do it after 1, maybe 2 passes, and you're going against a set defense, and no one in the Big 12 is going to allow you to do that.
With that, is it kind of harder to get older players past the mentality of I'm a shooter, I'm going to shoot, and is it just the product of today's basketball?
A little bit of both. Yeah, a little bit of both. And when you have more depth, right, you can get that point across a lot quicker because you just sit them down and they don't play. But when you have a team such as ours where the talent's relatively equal across the board, you're almost going game to game to kind of see who's playing well and who's not. And the other night, obviously, we had some injuries and those sorts of things, so your benches and your rotation shortened a little bit more, and then we had foul trouble on top. So it just you put yourself in a little bit of a hole that you're counting on certain guys, to play the right way and do the right things.
You were at the women's game last night. Have you been able to learn anything from JC and what that team's done this season?
Shoot, yeah, heck yeah. I mean, I've been to, I want to say every one of her home games with the exception of one. I would enjoy watching them play. I mean, they play fast, they play unselfishly, and they can really shoot the basketball. And, I knew going into the season that we wouldn't make, 13, 14 threes a game, but I certainly thought we'd make a few more than we are. I love her. I love the way her team plays and competes, and the recipe of her recruiting in terms of the shooting. I mean, the three-pointer is always an equalizer in college basketball, and those girls, they shoot it well, and it's fun to watch.
You mentioned your schedule. You're getting ready to get to a stretch of 4 games in 10 days. How do you balance that tough stretch?
Well, I mean, really at this point of the year, and I say this knowingly that our defense is not very good right now. At this time of the year, your defense should be set. Your offense should be pretty much set. Now you're just really trying to manipulate other teams and their defenses. And what I mean by that is if they hard hedge, you're going to try and take advantage of certain things. If they're in drop coverage defensively, you're going to take advantage of certain things. But your motion offense and your base defense should already be intact, right? And ours obviously is not, which is a major problem for us. But you really shouldn't have to teach a whole lot at this time of the year. So you should be managing your minutes, managing your practices, and making sure that your guys are fresh. That is not the case right now. I mean, we're still trying to get our offense and our defense where it needs to be.
You just mentioned you thought coming into the year y'all make a couple more threes a game. Are there a couple guys that you'd like that y'all could put in a better position for that, or is that more of just a team issue?
It's both. I mean, I would say that there's been a couple guys that have underperformed, and I'm not going to mention names, but, we expected certain guys to be able to do more this year, and they haven't. Part of that can be placed maybe part of that blame on myself and the staff, but really when you're in motion offense, you should be able to pick and choose your spots to score, whether you're coming off of a down screen and you're coming straight, or you're tight curling, or you're back cutting. Like, that's playing basketball, and it hasn't worked out thus far.
I feel like since the second half of the BYU game, Bryce has maybe looked for his shot a little bit more. Is that something that you facilitated through calling sets, or is that maybe something that he's just
a little bit of
naturally
both?
found?
I think that Bryce has looked for his shot throughout the season consistently. But, I mean, in certain situations of the game, sure, I have ran some plays to him. I mean, we've ran several plays to him to start the game, see if we can't get him going. But, no, I think Bryce is wired to score and has always been aggressive offensively.
I asked you about Arturo the other night, sort of specific to that game, but more generally, how important are the things that he does up top in your defense and what you're wanting to this defense?
Yeah, no, he's been great. I mean, he's got to tighten it up a little bit in terms of not taking as many risks. He'll guard his man, and the guy maybe turns his back on him, and a lot of times he is fast enough to go get that ball or get us a steal. But when he doesn't, a lot of times it really turns into a bad situation for us, because now we're either in a rotation or they move the ball, and next thing you know, they're either shooting a layup or getting a dunk. So sometimes he puts us in tough spots. But his aggressiveness, his ability to guard the ball 94 feet, it's fantastic. I mean, it could and should be the catalyst for what we want to do defensively overall.
Steve, I think you're third of the way through the conference season. Have you learned something about Big Pro basketball that you didn't know or has surprised you?
No, not really. I mean, you walk into this league, that it's going to be physical and tough and defensive oriented. I think every team that we've played has met those standards. I would say that there's certain nights where the officiating is not what I expected. But that again fluctuates, based upon the crew and those sorts of things. So no, great coaches, good players, really fun basketball league.
I don't know if you've been, you haven't been head coach at one place long enough to really address this, but can you learn about the different crews so that you are prepared for maybe what you're gonna be facing on a particular night?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about your question is that these guys all referee the same leagues, right? So DJ Carstensen, who had our game first time we had him, I hadn't seen DJ since we had him in the Big Ten, but I had DJ 15 times a year in the Big Ten. So we know each other really, really well, to the point where I ask about his family, he asks about my family. Like, those guys know. They study the coaches as much as we study the officials. So I guess to answer that question, I mean, most of these guys, you watch them on national TV. And then the interesting and the fun part sometimes is some of these guys have moved up the ranks just as I have. There's a couple of them that were refereeing in the Southland Conference 2 years ago. Colorado's game, 2 of those 3 were regulars in Conference USA, so it's fun to watch them, grow and get better and move up in the ranks. But then, those that are around all the time, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and which ones you can kind of maybe poke and which ones you probably don't need to yell at very much. That's just part of being a coach.
With how important it is for a big to get up and down the floor in your system, just how much, I guess, vetting did you have to do with Abu to make sure that he was capable of running to the amount?
Yeah, again, not a ton, because I knew Abu from number 1 high school. Then I knew him and I tried to get him when he left North Texas, went to Xavier. And then obviously when he came available after Xavier, I had vetted him plenty. But yeah, I mean, as I spent 2.5 hours this morning watching the portal and watching these big kids that are possibly going to come available, yeah, I'll spend a lot of time vetting, because I think when we run in transition, bigs and wings included, we're much better than we walk it up the floor and have to call sets.
Do you, how comfortable are you with the workload and just how much y'all put on Abu? Like in a different year with a different team, would you like to maybe split that workload up a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think any of us would be lying if we said we didn't want more out of Pat and Millie, right? And I think those 2 guys would tell you the same thing if they were here. They expected larger roles, and they want larger roles, but it's a production-based business at this point, and Abu's produced. So, I think he does a good job of, probably 3, 4, 5 minutes, but then he's like anyone else. If you're going to get up and down the floor at that pace, if you're going to guard ball screens and hedge them and be up there, I mean, that's a lot of load on a big guy like that. So, he needs a rest. But with that being said, Pat was great against Colorado. We just need more. We need more out of that position.
You talked about Abu's personality before. Has he always been like this as long as you've known him?
Absolutely, yeah.
Same kid back in high school?
Yeah, same guy. I mean, he's a fun guy to be around, especially off the floor. There's not many strangers that meet him that don't like him.
You kind of just talked about a little bit how some officials, like when to poke and when to, I mean, I guess kind of how much thought does go into that on your behalf, like knowing what the officials there are, and if they are ones that you could really work on, or if they'll give you technical or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like in any other sport, you have to have a good feel for that. Otherwise, you're gonna, there's a good possibility you're gonna put your team at a disadvantage, especially in a crucial moment. I'll give you, and I'm not going to say which game, but within the last 2 weeks, we had a veteran official that we hadn't had thus far during the season. And so as we're in film right before the game and then right before tip-off, I reminded them again, do not talk back to that guy, because he's gonna tee you up, and obviously it could affect the game. So yeah, it's a major part of it.
When do you kind of pick that up as a coach? Like, did you know that as soon as you got your first coaching
Well,
job? Or?
yeah, now you watch the games, and just like coaches across the country have reputations for being, guys that are on the official's tail, or guys that are very amicable and easy to work with, officials have the same. The head of our officials is John Higgins, and he obviously was one of the people who gave the most technical fouls in all of college basketball. You knew that going into the game, therefore you avoided it. And with that being said, there's all kinds of different websites that track all that these days, and so you have to pay attention. If you don't pay attention, you're probably not, playing all the angles to make your team successful.
Obviously, you have a lot going on, just recruiting, the season, the games, everything. How often are you able to sort of appreciate this and have fun right now?
Oh, never. Yeah, never. I'm not wired that way either. I'm sure at the end of the season, I'll look back on it and think more through it. But right now, every one of us is just fighting for our lives and trying to win games and trying to figure out the best combination to find success and therefore, get to the NCAA tournament. And then that's all that consumes me at this point.
Team that ever shifts for different guys, like, you think, Bill Self, Calipari, all these guys that have been around for 20, 30 years, you think that they're able to kind of relax in February or January?
I think that the really good ones don't. Now, maybe some guys are better than me and they're able to do that, but I think that the really, really successful coaches, there's not very much of an off switch. It consumes you from the time the season starts till the time the season ends. Now, I think that also, and it's obviously not available in this league, but when I was in the Big East, I remember having a 4, 5, 6 day window where you just didn't have any games. And I can remember Greg McDermott maybe taking a day or two here and just getting away to decompress and reset himself. But now that we're going to these super leagues, right, with all 20 game schedules, it's just hard. I don't know how you're going to do that.
Where are you guys at health-wise? Any update on
Yeah,
that?
you know what? We didn't practice the last 2 days. Connor, obviously, I haven't really seen him. I know he got his bell rung pretty well, or pretty hard, I should say, pretty good, whatever. And Khalil, I did see yesterday. He didn't seem to be limping around, but that's all I got for you right now. We'll know more tomorrow.
Anything else, Coach?